Hey everyone, hope you've all been keeping well. I know a lot has come out in the Idaho 4 case of late, particularly the 911 call. And I know that a lot of different channels have kind of discussed the 911 call and broken it down for you guys and given you their opinion on everything. So I don't want to do too much of the same thing for that. But what I really wanted to do was discuss something about the 911 call and the nature of the 911 call in the context of one of the documents that came out just very recently. The document that I'm talking about is the defendant's objection to state's motion in Lamine regarding the 911 call. And the reason that I found this document so interesting was because it picked out a sentence that I also fixated on when I first heard the 911 call. And I'll get into what that is in a moment. But just so that you know, in this document, the defense is looking at the fact that the state is arguing that the call, the 911 call, it constitutes the requirements for an excited utterance, and it's like a kind of present tense reaction, if you will. And the defense is attacking that claim, and they give some of the requirements, or two of the requirements for an excited utterance, which says that an excited utterance is an occurrence or event sufficiently startling to render inoperative the normal reflective thought process of an observer, and the statement of the declarant must have been a spontaneous reaction to the occurrence or event and not the result of reflective thought. And in this document, they continue, to explain why there's been a lot of reflective thought. And they rely like a lot on the fact that there was a lot of time between the event and the call, and the fact that there was communication between Dylan and Bethany, and that there was a lot of phone activity and stuff like that as well. And they note that the state singles out one statement as an excited utterance, and that's this one where we have EA saying, "Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night." Yeah. And they say, the state says, according to the defense, the state says that this is an excited utterance because it's explaining something that they were all currently observing while they're making the call, which would be apparently Xana passed out. And there's a problem with this. According to the defense, they say that the state is failing to recognize the context in which the statement is being made. And they point out this statement is being prompted by either Dylan or Bethany saying, "No, we saw." And then EA says, everything that she says afterwards, and the defense is pointing out that that is hearsay. Now, the reason that I wanted to look at this sentence so much is because, like I said, it stood out to me a lot when I first heard the call. And I agree that it's hearsay, but also I'm not a lawyer. Like, that's not my thing. But from a forensic perspective and more of a statement analysis perspective, I think that this prompt and the sentence that comes thereafter is extremely important. And I think that it's extremely important because it shows the extent to which this call was discussed and possibly even rehearsed before it was made. I don't think that this was something as simple as Hunter saying, call 911 after seeing something. I think that there was, if you factor in the amount of time and you factor in this sentence, I think that there was quite a lot of discussion about what was going to be in the call. And to me, if EA can be prompted that way, and then she's able to just quickly fill in something she forgot to say, it sounds scripted to me. It sounds like I said, it sounds like there was something that she just forgot to say. And that's a problem for me because putting aside the requirements for an excited utterance and whether or not this is hearsay and stuff, the fact that even when the call first starts and Dylan or Bethany says there's something happening in our house and we don't know what, she's saying we, which means that she's speaking on behalf of everybody making the call. To me, that really, really signals that this has been talked about extensively because she's able and she's comfortable to say on everybody's behalf, we don't know what's happening. Now, look, that's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not very clued up on the legal side of things, but that's just what I think in terms of the call and particularly that one sentence, which I think is super relevant in the context of the fact that this call took so long. And you have to wonder, what were these people talking about just before they decided to call 911? Were they not discussing what they were going to say? And I know that the defense feels this call, you know, I don't know if they feel that the call shouldn't be included, but I think for this reason, it should be included. So I kind of disagree with them in some regard, but like I say, that's just my opinion. And I'd really like to know your opinion. Do you think that this shows that the call was rehearsed? Or do you think that it is also just, an excited utterance like the state is claiming? That's all from me today, but I really do hope that you have a beautiful day further, and I will see you guys soon.